Welcome to the Gritcast, where we get into the nitty-gritty of all things hockey. From the East to the West Coast. Here are your hosts, Matt Pierce, Nikosh Ganguly, and Darius Dominguez.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, kids of all ages. Welcome back to another episode of the Gritcast. As you can tell, it is not the regular guy opening the show. That is because Nick has quit the Gritcast. He's gone. No, I'm joking. He's busy.
Just the two of us.
He's got a life. So it's the kids' table. Matt, how are you doing this week? How are you doing?
Not too bad. No, it feels weird. Just the
weird.
two of us this week, because normally, Nick, energetic openings to the pod, gets us off on a good start. But this week, despite the first week of the playoffs, it's a laid back episode this week.
It is. I think we're right in the middle of we're just heading into a couple game threes, so I feel like things are just kind of kicking off. So nothing too crazy. I'm sure by the time we do our next podcast, we'll be pulling our hair out.
Oh, shit's going to be, going off the rails.
Yeah, especially with some of the series. Honestly, some of them I thought were that we'd have answers on already, pretty much wrapped up. They're not. So it's been pretty interesting so far in my eyes. But we'll jump right into it with the first series I have locked up here. Vegas and Winnipeg. This one has been interesting. It did not start the way I thought it was going to. But Matt, what have you seen through the first, I guess, two games at this point?
I thought the first game kind of indicated my feeling towards the Jets winning this series. Mm-hmm. It was like the Connor Hellebuyck show. Well, not really, because I think Vegas only had 17 shots on net. But Winnipeg just sort of suffocated them and didn't allow them to do anything. And I thought that would continue into game two. And it was starting to look like it did with Adam Lowry open up the scoring. But it just seems like Vegas is sort of, I don't want to say fought their way back into the series, but they're starting to let Winnipeg know who they are and who they've been throughout the regular season, especially with the return of LTIR, with the R standing for ready for a few weeks. Mark Stone coming back, making his presence felt, and Jack Eichel finally getting his first playoff goal last night.
Yeah, and it was pretty cool to see playoff Jack Eichel, obviously, these past two games. But I feel like Vegas only asserted themselves into the series last night. I don't think they were even there.
Absolutely.
They weren't even really
game
there.
One. Game one was sort of like a feel-out game.
Yeah, credit to the Jets. They played really well, but I feel like they weren't really there. Now that I can say Vegas is here, they've arrived, so the rest of the series we'll see how things play out. Because it did look like in game one, holy shit, the Jets came to play. Hellebuyck's, he only had to stop 17 shots, so he's going to do that. But in the last game, in game two, Vegas took over. And Mark Stone, in my eyes, probably the most underrated player in the league. I know he barely played this year, and they hit him under the cap, all that stuff. But honestly, he comes in clutch. He's one of the most clutch guys in the playoffs, even when he was in Ottawa. So, I don't know. They look pretty good. Vegas, I still like my pick, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, there's a reason why they call him Expressive Mark Stone, because let's just throw it back here to our buddy Nick. He had a tweet where he said, Mark Stone looks like he's the only player in the league that's happy to score goals. And yeah.
It's true.
The two goals that he scored last night, it's almost like he thought he won the cup. Yeah, you'd love to see that out of a player, because most times when it's a clutch goal, players are sick. But no, Mark Stone, jumping into the boards. I saw Brett Howden sort of jump onto his back. I was like, do you not realize what injury he had, pal? Yeah. I'd watch out. He's like your breadwinner here, pal.
What injury, Matt? Wink, wink. Yeah, I don't think he didn't. Come on, he was it. But yeah, no, it's awesome to see him. He reminds me of Ovi when he first broke into the league. He just loves to score goals and celebrate goals. He's got the hair flowing everywhere. His stick isn't in the right position. When he's skating back to the bench, it's pretty funny. Nick Hague too. Shout out to him. He was in on every goal and every celebration. He's swearing, and he's in the mix there. So that was fun to see too. But yeah, Eichel gets on the board too, which I think was important, because if they went maybe 3-4 games without Eichel on the board, that would be a storyline too. So he gets on the board, so that's pretty good for Vegas. But yeah, I don't think the Jets are out of it just yet. They have the goaltending. Hellebuyck's save in the first 5 minutes last night.
That glove save,
unbelievable, and just the awareness to swing it out of the net too, so he doesn't fall into the net with it. He's just a different breed. So I don't know. It's gonna be fun to watch the rest of the series. If you like physical hockey, it's one of the best series so far for that.
Oh, it's easily like the most or one of the most physical series in the West. I was going to say the most, but we'll get into that in a
Well,
later series.
yeah. So do you want to hit Oilers Kings right now, or do you want to save that to the end?
You know what? Let's get out of the way early. Let's rip that Band-Aid off.
Let's do it.
Game 3, LA tonight. I want to say I'm concerned, but with the way we've been dominating in 5-on-5, I'm not really worried at all. And like McDavid hasn't done much. He's just had one power play assist in game 2. But for him to stay this quiet, I'd be worried if I was LA. Like there's no chance you leave him off the scoreboard more than once tonight.
Yeah, and I think
He's that good and sort of sorry, but to go into game 3, the first 2 games, those jitters are all gone. It's time to lock in, and that's what Connor will exactly do tonight.
And I think, like you mentioned, the jitters. I think a lot of teams, including the Oilers and the Leafs alike, in Game 1, you kind of saw that, right? And I think that definitely went away in Game 2. Like, I thought Draisaitl had an amazing Game 2. He was awesome. But I was going to say, like, you brought it up. You're not worried, but, McDavid only has 1 assist, and it's a power play assist through 2 games. But some other guys have been stepping up, so I wouldn't be... that's what you want to see. You shouldn't have... McDavid is your A-plus player, but throughout the playoffs, like, other guys got to chip in. Teams are going to have strategies to make sure McDavid doesn't score. It's going to happen, but there could be games he doesn't. So it's nice to see the rest of the Oilers step up. But you're not worried at all about McDavid?
No, because not only McDavid, but if he gets going, then watch out for the others. Hyman and Nuge have played a very, very quiet first 2 games. Most of that top 6, other than maybe Draisaitl and Kane. But like in game 1, you had Bouchard score. In game 2, you had depth guys like Derek Ryan and Clean Costin, Clean the Dream, my boy. So it's nice to see the others step up, because the deeper you get into the playoffs, the more your depth matters. Because your top guys are going to be tired, so it's more on your bottom 6, only 9-10 minutes a game time on ice, if I'm being generous here. And with that time, they know they got to do something important to sort of spark the team.
Yeah, definitely. And in talking about depth guys too, Draisaitl, he is leading the charge in this series. Like that stick of his with that freaking paddle on the bottom, he is letting those one-timers fly.
See, and if you're the Kings, you're starting to worry, because you're putting all your energy with like Deneau on McDavid, and you're letting all the other guys have this free space.
Yeah.
Because the Deneau line is matched against the McDavid liner as much as McLellan liked to do in Edmonton, despite not having last change. And then you have, I believe it's the Kopitar line up against Draisaitl, and they're just getting eaten alive 5-on-5. The goals and numbers aren't really there to support it, but you can obviously see it.
Eye test is showing otherwise, yeah.
Yes.
And I think heading back to LA should be interesting too, because LA then does get the advantage in line matching, but I just don't think, personally, you're not gonna. It's obvious you're not gonna keep McDavid quiet for long. So, prime time. They're in LA now. It should be fun.
It's also interesting to see, because even though LA has last change, I believe Jay Woodcroft will go with 11-7, and that makes it all the more difficult to sort of line match, because you're not going to know which center is out there with the bottom two forwards.
Yeah, that should make it interesting. And that's the thing. You could put McDavid out there with them. You could put Draisaitl. Like, you don't know who's coming over the board, so how do you match that? Even though you have home ice, right? It's pretty interesting. And obviously, like, I don't know. I know it's a part of the game, but like the whole line matching and thinking about that stuff, like, it screwed the Leafs in the first like 5 minutes of their game 1. So I just hate thinking about stuff like that, but it is absolutely a factor. But
it's all about strategy. I'm a big fan of strategy.
Yeah.
4D chess, give me all of it. The head games, the line matching head games, like, love it. It's one of the best parts of playoff hockey, because you sort of starts to see the game within the game, with the coaches messing with each other. It's fantastic.
It's all part of competition, and I love it this time of year, because it shows that they just want to win so badly, and it's fun to watch. It's just like when it gets overly complicated when they're talking on the broadcast, I'm like, come on, I just want a goal, as a fan. I'm just score a goal, I don't care about the line matches, but yeah, I think the one interesting thing about this series, I think we touched on last episode, is I think it's between game 5 and 6. There's like 4 days, because the Lakers play.
There's 4 days. It's the Lakers, and then potentially the Clippers, because they all three of them share the same arena.
That's right. And the
Like
Clippers.
I looked on the crypto.com arena, and it didn't show the games if necessary for either the Lakers or Clippers. But there's that 4 day gap.
Yeah, and I think they put it in there because, like, I was checking the scores yesterday too. The Clippers series is 1-1. Last I checked, I think they played last night, so I'm not sure what it is. So it's going at least 5 games, which means they'll be back there in that 4 day gap. And the Lakers too. So that's kind of poopy, but
So all the more reason to have the NHL go back to like a 2-3-2 format instead of like a 2-2-1-1-1.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people argue like that game 5 back at home is a big thing for the higher seed. But if you really think about it, a lot of these first round playoff series go the distance. So if you can get those 2 home games at the end, like that makes all the difference, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you're down 3-2 and you win game 6, well, you don't have to go out and play game 7 on the road. You're back home in front of your crowd. They're like they sense the resiliency, and you just feed off that, and it's a whole lot better than like winning game 6 at home or winning game 6 on the road, and then you got to go back to game 7 at home.
Right. Yeah, it's a different dynamic for sure. At least it's not like the OHL. The OHL used to do like 1-1-1-1-1. Like you would switch every game, which is
that makes
horrible.
no sense.
It doesn't.
That would suck if it was like 2 like far distance teams. Like, could you imagine like Mississauga and like the Sioux?
Exactly.
1-1.
Yeah,
like
I think they would switch it at that point, but
you're hoping so. Logic only would dictate that.
You would hope. The last I can remember was Mississauga actually, and it was Owen Sound, which is only like 2.5 hours probably from Mississauga, so it's not that bad. But yeah, they used to do that, and then they had the 2-3-2. They went to like a 2-1-1-1-1-1 format, which I don't know how that makes sense. They played with a lot of things. The OHL, junior hockey, it's very.
There's also the WHL back in the 80s, I think, because one division was unbalanced, so they played 8 or 9 game series, and then the others would play like the normal 7 game series.
Yeah. That's
It's like junior hockey in itself is questionable, but I love it.
Oh yeah. It's awesome to get into. But to go back to the Oilers and Kings, it should be a fun, lengthy series. I think by the time we do our next podcast, they'll probably still be playing. The last thing I wanted to touch on too before we move on is the Oilers competing in the goaltending category. I think LA, when it comes down to the nitty gritty, LA has the goaltending advantage. I don't know what you've seen from Skinner, obviously all season and in this playoff series, but what do you think in terms of the goaltending? Like, is it something that Korpisalo can, steal a game for LA, whereas Skinner maybe can't? What are you getting the feel on there?
I want to say sort of after the shaky second period in game 2, I think, did you see the 2 shaky goals that Skinner let in?
Yep.
Where he wasn't really, like the bilateral movement wasn't quite there and he wasn't hugging his post, but that third period, he was strong. He's good at doing that all year. But I think Korpisalo can steal a game for LA, but I think it's a very evenly matched goaltending battle, but you can see which team has the rookie goaltender, and it shows.
Right, yeah. And I definitely saw that in game 2. It's nice they bounced back. And he bounced back more specifically, but you can definitely tell on that second goal he let in, I was kind of like, oh boy, hopefully this is not like a little crack in the armor, but he bounced back pretty good. They got that win, and now they're heading on the road. So you good with the Oilers and Kings? Move on?
Yes, sir. Awesome. Let's move on.
Another series that I've been taking a liking to is Dallas and Minnesota. This one's been pretty interesting. To start, I'm not sure why. I'm pretty sure Gustafsson started game 1, right?
He did, yes.
And so they went with Fleury, who literally did nothing but show up for game 2. He didn't do anything else in the game. But it's been an interesting series too. Maybe not one of the more flashy ones in terms of, we're looking at the New Jersey Devils and Rangers before everything started. But it's surprised. And especially last game with Dallas, it's really good. But what have you thought of the series so far?
I didn't catch much of game 2 other than the score, but in game 1, I thought it was fantastic hockey from what I caught in between the Oilers and Kings. Once that game ended, I switched over to Sportsnet, one of the 9,000 Sportsnet channels, and caught double overtime. But despite the game 2 score, I think it's an evenly matched series.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, I think we all picked it to go the distance or close. We just had different winners.
I believe I might be wrong on this, but I believe I took Minnesota in 6. I'm
That
fairly
sounds right,
certain.
yeah. Because I
Yeah.
also took Minnesota in 7, and Nick had Dallas in 7, I think. But it definitely looks like it's going to go the distance. But in game 1, too, let's talk about the Pavelski thing. We got to talk about it
Oh,
because it
yes,
happened.
absolutely.
I'll just go first, and then I'll hand it over to you. But very quickly, not to spend too much time on it, because obviously we've moved on. But I don't think it was necessarily a high or dirty or dangerous hit. I think it was a hard hit where Pavelski was kind of in an awkward situation. He lost his balance and he smacked his head off the ice. I think that's all it is. I don't think it was an intent to injure. It's playoffs. Intensity is ramped up. He caught him pretty good and he landed on his head.
Yeah, no, it was the head contact that really did it for me, but it was also sort of, I don't want to say it was a fully blindside hit, but Pavelski had his head turned, and that's when Dublin caught him. And I think it was the stick of Ryan Hartman that
Yep.
caught Pavelski on his way down,
Yep.
and that could have sort of added on to it. But even though some would say it's a clean hit, you got to take those. You got to take those out of the game. Like, sure,
Yeah.
hit a guy clean all you want, catch him with his head down. That's not dirty. But if you catch him on a blind side, then yeah, no, that's not it for me.
I think, yeah, like if you're a defenseman, you stand somebody up who has their head down, clean check, shoulder, it's awesome, right? That's perfect. I think a situation like this where a guy is basically standing still and you come flying in and hit him, even though it's clean, like it's not a headshot or anything, it is still kind of like a blindside hit, right? And I think they do have to take those out of the game. It should be like charging too, right? Like
Yeah.
technically, you're coming flying in at a guy who's standing still, and if you knock him over, stuff like that happens, right? Although he hit his head off the ice, you can't really prepare for that. But yeah, I don't think it's suspension worthy. Maybe a penalty, 2 minutes for blindsiding. But you'd hope that he didn't smack his head off the ice, but it's what happens. But yeah, I think to move on to game 2, Minnesota wins that game in overtime. There's actually a block made by, I forget the guy's name, in overtime. He's a rookie.
Oh, it was Brock Faber.
That's
who it
right,
was.
yes. Amazing block, empty net. Would have been a sure goal. Dallas would have won the game. And then Minnesota comes back the other way. They win the game. And moving on to game 2, then Fleury starts, which is quite interesting. I don't know if...
It's questionable. I don't know why he wouldn't ride the hot hand.
Yeah, I mean, I think on one hand you look at, okay, Fleury's got the experience, but then Gustafson's playing great, has played great for you all year, especially the second half. And if he's not hurt, why would you make that switch? It really messes with a team's psychology. Like if Gustafson's been playing great the second half and they feel really comfortable with him, why would you put the other guy in, even if he's playing okay? And he definitely didn't. And I love Fleury, but that was brutal to watch. Like he got shelled.
Yeah, I don't know why. I have no reason why Dean Evison even thought about, hey, let's ride the hot hand. Just kidding. Fleury, you're in net.
Great, we won the first game. Let's switch what we did. Like it doesn't
Yeah,
make sense.
it's not baseball. It's not like you have to change a pitcher every game. Like
No,
you can keep the same goalie in.
there's games.
It's
There's
almost
days in between for a reason.
it's almost like you got punished for winning. That's what it almost sounds like.
Yeah, but I think it was important for Minnesota to take one on the road. It's obviously going to go the distance, I think, again. But pretty interesting to see Dallas have that offensive outburst like that. Obviously, Fleury wasn't on top of his game. He let in a couple crappy goals, but Dallas really exploded there for 7 goals. So, and they're a team that's, we make fun of them all the time ever since we started the podcast. They're slow, they're boring, all this stuff, but they look like a pretty exciting team in game 2. So should be interesting heading back to Minnesota. The crowd should be into it. Exciting team Minnesota has, and the writing's on the wall with their cap situation. So now or never, better win the series. But I guess we can move on to the last Western Conference series, which is the Colorado Avalanche, defending Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche, against the Seattle Kraken, which is also tied 1-1 as of last night. Matt, have you caught any of this series? What do you like? What do you not like?
Only caught a bit of game two. Despite Seattle taking game one, the Colorado Avalanche have woken up and it's theirs in five. All it took for Seattle's season to crumble completely was 45 seconds for Colorado to put two up on the board, and that's all it wrote.
It's 100% true because I was looking last night. I wasn't watching that game. But I was keeping track on the score app, and it was 2-0 Seattle, and I was like, wow, this could get
Yeah,
very
I saw
interesting.
that. Yeah, I was like, okay. And then Colorado tied it up.
Yeah, and as soon as that happened and I saw the final score, I was like, Colorado's back. If you go down 2-0, even if you were a Stanley Cup champion, going, back to Seattle, I think that does something to a team. But to come back the way they did, show that they're the Cup champs, it was pretty interesting. But a couple things I wanted to mention too. Bob Wischushkin, who is the commentator, I believe if that's how you pronounce it, for this series, he is the best. Man, I wish Sportsnet or the Canadian broadcast had people with this much passion yelling into the mic when somebody scores, like bringing the energy that the crowd is given. It was awesome. Like man, you do not get the same energy here. And I wish it's crazy because it's our country's game.
Yeah,
But
to sort of bring up like going back to Seattle,
mhm,
I wanted to bring up that Seattle this season not as strong at home as opposed to on the road. As funny as that sounds, it's like
interesting. Yeah.
away ice advantage, I guess. I know everything um right off the board completely once you enter mid-April, but at home this year they were 20 they had 20 wins and 17 losses and four overtime losses, and on the road they had 26 wins and only 11 regulation losses.
Wow.
So their point percentage was a .537 at home and a .683 on the road, which um it might be obvious or it might not be obvious, but I can't remember a team like being so dominant on the road as opposed to being at home.
Yeah, I mean, the only other team I can think of was this year's New Jersey Devils, but those stats might even be better, I think. But still, like that's insane, and no wonder they went up 1-0 and they were winning 2-0 in this game.
Like,
Um,
is there something in the water in Seattle?
yeah, like maybe it's the arena, the fact that it's like above ground or something. I don't know, but
Most arenas are below ground.
right, but I guess. Yeah, but
I'll let that one slide. Nick's gonna attack you for
nah,
that
Nick's
one.
gonna come after me next week for that one.
Yep,
But did you see the Tanev celebration, the 2-0 goal where he
I
blows
did.
where he blows a kiss to the
Yes.
fan and then they lose?
Yep.
That hurts. That hurts.
It's like doing the shush crowd taunt, and then you lose.
Yeah, we'll get to that too, Corey Perry. But
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was, dude. When you go up 2-0 and you do that, you're feeling nice. But to not score another goal the rest of the game, that hurts. And Grubauer too. I think both goaltenders actually. Georgiev. I wasn't sure about him coming into this year. We talked about it earlier this year. He played fantastic last night. Probably one of the reasons they won. The rest of the team woke up too. But Grubauer too. I don't know if we even saw this coming. But both goaltenders in this series, like I didn't think it was going to be as much of a storyline.
Yeah, most goalies sort of turn it up as they get to the playoffs. Others don't. But it's nice to see sort of Seattle get that reliant goaltending.
Mhm.
Because I mean, if not him, then who else? Martin Jones. Like, ugh. Yeah.
Yikes.
But with Gorgiev, um, Rangers fans for years had said if he gets a starting role somewhere, he will flourish. Because the more he's one of those goalies where like even if it seems like you're overworking him, that's when he performs at his best, almost like a Hellebuck situation.
Yeah.
Because that's how he thrives. Or Vasilevsky, with Vasilevsky refusing to be pulled, but we'll get into that. But it's just I did not see this coming from Alexander Georgiev.
Yeah. I had that same feeling too when he was with the Rangers. Like he was a very good goalie, kind of being wasted as a backup. But I didn't know. I didn't know he could hold his own like this. So it's nice to see, definitely. The other thing I was going to say is Colorado, even if they win in 5, like you said, but it's looking more like 6 to me. I think it's a little bit more of a series. Seattle's playing really well, a lot better than I thought. Colorado has no second line. Like, compared to what they won the cup with last year, a lot of people picked them to win again. they lost Kadri. They don't have Landeskog for the entire playoffs, right? Makar, I don't know if is he 100%. We don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is he back to full health? Does it almost seem like they rushed Makar?
Yes, yes, which is stupid
Yeah.
because if you ask me, I think you can still get out of this first round series against Seattle pretty easily. You still have a good team. I'm not saying they don't have a good team, but I think it did look like that they rushed him because the last few games of the year they're like, I don't know if he's going to be back for playoffs. And then game one, it's like, yeah, he's great. He's fully recovered, fantastic. So it does kind of look like they rushed him. I don't like stuff like that either. I know it's playoffs, but especially
Like
with
the type of
it was a concussion.
the type of caliber of player he is, like you don't really want to mess around with that.
No, we saw it with Crosby.
How
He missed almost 2 years,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting. I saw him going to the boards last night on one particular play where I was like, that did not look like Cale Makar. Like I feel like he could go in a little harder. I don't know if it was at the end of a shift, but anyway. And it's also fun to see Seattle in the playoffs. Like we saw Vegas come out the gate hot. They made the Stanley Cup final in their first year. Seattle has a terrible year last year, and they come into this year, make the playoffs, pretty good team, and they're giving the Stanley Cup champions a run for their money so far with the tied 1-1 series. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, just seeing Seattle in the playoffs.
No, I think Seattle fans will turn out well for the playoffs. They always do with their teams, with the Mariners, and then like the old like Legion of Boom, like Seahawks. Like that crowd got nuts. So they'll stand behind their team.
Yeah, that
Will
should
they
be
win
fun
at
to watch
home?
too.
Probably not, but
Yeah, yeah. As stats prove, probably not. But we'll see. That should be fun to watch, just to see that first
like how
playoff
loud.
crowd. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that'll be cool to see. And their building's pretty unique, so I'll be looking forward to that. I think they play Saturday night, so
What are your thoughts on like sort of like the two like mini scoreboards at Climate Pledge?
I don't hate it. I think it's very not traditional at all, but I really don't hate it because it kind of each section has a close view, if that makes sense. Because like traditionally, you're just looking at the same scoreboard. So if you're further
Yeah, it's
away,
center ice.
yeah. So if you're like behind the net, it's kind of far, but everyone has the same view. But in Seattle, it's like right there. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's definitely different.
That must be weird as a player because like to see how much time is left, you're normally
Yeah.
looking up at center ice and you got to look to like one of the two ends to see how much time there is.
Yeah, I've noticed like Marner, for example, with the Leafs, to bring it back to the Leafs, there's at Scotiabank Arena on the ends, like behind the net, they have scoreboards and out of town scores. So I've seen him before retreat to his own zone and look up there, which is very odd.
Okay.
But I think if you get like traded to Seattle and you're trying to look up at the board for something, you're like, oh shit, it's not there. Kind of looking around.
Yeah, I know in the outdoor games they had the clock in one of the end boards. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. They should sort of bring that over to like the indoor arenas.
That'd be pretty cool. That'd be great for the players. Never mind the fans.
It
but
would.
That'd
Yeah.
be great.
Because even if you don't make it like distracting, I mean, all the time. Like, remember when Ottawa had like the electronic ad boards,
Yep.
like before the modern electronic
Yes.
ad boards? Like, I thought those were like distracting. So if you just have like a mini clock, like at the back of the rink, like the trapezoid, just like above there,
That'd be pretty cool.
because
Yeah.
it's not like it's obstructing anybody
No, you
or
have like
it's
goal lights and
or
stuff there
distracting.
anyway. Yeah,
Yeah.
it wouldn't really take away anything. So I think that'd be fine. But funny you bring that up with the ads. Would you rather like built-in digital ads or the digital ads we get now? Because I find the ones now so distracting when they get wrapped around players and they start glitching.
I think the league, I don't know, like the physical electronic ad boards, I think that would be like far too expensive for the league, and that means spending money, and that's something
Right.
they wouldn't do. Logically, it would make sense, but also you sort of have to. It's for the players' sake. Like if you go hard into those boards, like who knows what'll happen.
There's probably not as much give either because it's all
Give.
built in. So yeah, that could be an issue.
Like it was cool with like WWE when they did like the electronic like ring apron. Those were cool.
Yeah.
But also you didn't really didn't see anybody take spots off that because I wouldn't want to land on that either too, pal.
Yeah, they probably tell you not to. Like, yeah, please don't break this shit.
Those cost millions, pal. Like,
Brother,
okay,
brother.
Vince, relax.
Yeah, relax. But yeah, the other thing I hate too, since we're on the topic, of this and ads. Remember they used to have the Stanley Cup playoffs painted inside the blue line?
Oh, that ad, yep, and they got rid of it last year.
And now it's like cat advertisements and shit. Like, what's going on here?
Like superimposed.
Yeah. It's not as distracting because it's done well. It's not like the boards, right? You barely notice it. But I'd rather like the Stanley Cup playoffs like painted on it. Like that added something, man. Like it just made like you're here, you're in the playoffs.
And just like the shoehorning of like advertisements. Like I'm not going to get into the betting ones because I don't have hours.
Oh yeah.
But it's like the broadcast ones. Like you're watching the Stanley Cup playoffs. Yeah, presented by Geico. What? Like don't.
That is true,
why are
you know?
you? Yeah. Why are you selling out the cup all in a favor of a few bucks? Like,
well, it's not. Are they gonna? That's why.
Are they gonna like rename the actual cup itself? It's like, oh, Connor McDavid lifting the Rogers Cup.
It's like I could see it happening one day though. And they would keep it Stanley Cup, but it would be like the Stanley Cup presented by X or the X Stanley Cup. You know what I mean? Like
if it's Canada, it's gonna be Rogers. They put their stamp on everything.
Well, it was like the NBA like a few years ago. It's like the NBA final sponsored by YouTube or the YouTube's NBA final. What? It's not on YouTube though.
They had YouTube TV in the States. You can watch it on there. I'm not defending it, but to have like the playoffs like sponsor, it's like
okay,
like just leave the ads out of the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's only getting worse, but all we can do is
it's already bad enough. Like when you said the ads wrap around the players.
Exactly. Yeah, when that happens, nothing makes me more upset than when that happens because it's so.
Or distracting. When all of them glitch at the same time. It was the last Oiler regular season game, and normally like the ads rotate. There's like 5-10 ads, but at one particular time, all the ads decided to show up on the screen, and they layered one on top of each other. It's like
that's horrible.
Like I know this is sort of a meaningless game, but can we not, please?
You know what it was? They're like, the viewership's not as good. Everyone's waiting for playoffs. Let's just put all the ads on at once. Let's just get all this freaking advertising money in at once. That's too much, though. Okay, let's move on from the Western Conference. Move
to the East. The beasts in the East, Darius. Break it down for us.
The beasts in the East, baby. I'm going to start with Boston and Florida just because I feel like I have a lot more to say about the other series. So
okay, that's fair.
We'll start with Boston and Florida. Is anyone surprised with the outcome of Game 1?
No.
I think that was pretty, like, there was no shock value there. It was just like, oh, wow, business
like
as
usual. Everybody saw the script, like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. But, like, Game 2, the Bruins had no jam. And Florida really kind of punked them out, which I was not expecting even for a minute of this series. And Alex Lyon's been a fantastic story, too. Just coming in. Bobrovsky, he's not on the case. He's on the bench. And obviously Spencer Knight not available. So Alex Lyon's kind of taking the mantle, and he's playing well. And they beat the Bruins' ass in Game 2. Like, it wasn't just like 3-2 they squeaked away. Like, no, it was pretty convincing. And you could tell Tkachuk was getting under guys' skin. Like, they're coming home 1-1. And I think that's madly impressive because I had them losing in 5. And they took one in Boston. That's not where I had them winning one of their games. So I don't know what you think.
Yeah, no, if there's an option for the Bruins to take in 3, I would have taken that. Game 1 didn't surprise me, but Game 2, wow, is all I can say. Because as soon as Boston started to gain momentum and sort of chip away at that Florida lead, Florida would just score.
Yep.
And then afterwards, Florida would get in their face. Mm-hmm. And not too many times this season has that Bruins team sort of faced that sort of adversity where teams would have them and then Boston say, okay, you can lie down first now. And Florida didn't.
No, not for 1 second.
It was shocking to see, say the least.
I think not a lot of players or not a lot of teams around the league that are in the playoffs have a guy like Tkachuk who is your best player and also a pest like that, like a Brad Marchand type, right? And I forgot about Gudas completely when we were doing the preview because he's all over Marchand, all over their top guys, not letting them breathe. And I didn't think it would be – I knew that there was going to be some pushback because you're not going to roll over and die. But I don't know. There's some doubt there. Like, do I think the Bruins will still win the series? Yes. But will they win it in 5 games? I don't think so. It could go 6. It could go 7. Like, just based off game 2, like, the Bruins weren't allowed to do anything, and we've saw that 12 times this year. So I thought it was just very interesting.
Yeah, like I still think the Bruins will take it, but the Panthers have sort of shown the league, it's like, hey, follow our game plan and you will beat us. And Matthew Tkachuk, he's only very useful if the team he's on is winning. Other than that, if he's down by 3 or 4, then he's nothing more than just like another voice chirping at you. Like he's a good player, but I just not a fan of his antics.
No, and that was the last thing I was going to bring up is like the antics in the series. Like, I don't know if you saw Bertuzzi taking Lundell's stick, I think, in game 1, and he kind of brings it to the bench, and then he breaks it. And I was kind of like, if this was a Leaf, like, that guy's suspended or he's getting a penalty for that. But, you know, it's the Bruins. It's the Bruins. Come on. So, I don't know. I like playoff hockey, like guys getting under other guys' skin, but like taking a guy's stick and then breaking it on the bench and stuff, like what are we doing here, you know? But yeah, what do you think of like all the antics and stuff? I know you said like you're not a big fan of like Kachuk and stuff, but what about the Bruins?
The Bruins, it's mainly Marchand. I have a problem with the rest of the team. They're like the old school Bruins mentality.
Yeah.
Like the tough guy. I'm just trying to think, but I can't. But like the rest of the team, like Nick Foligno, for example.
Yeah, Nick Foligno. Like even Charlie McAvoy is kind of like
McAvoy.
Yeah.
But you can tell that the Bruins don't have Bergeron to sort of rope them in and get them to smarten up. Which I think if he was in this series, it would be 2-0 Boston going back to Florida.
Oh,
because he's one of those leaders that like just ignores the noise completely and reels his guys in, tells them to smarten up. It's almost like the Bruins don't need a coach whenever Patrice Bergeron is out on the ice. Like he's one of those guys that is good enough to sort of maintain the role of keeping his composure on the ice, fulfilling his role, being one of the best defensive centers to ever play this game, and like not even close either. And then just reeling it in on the bench and getting everybody, keeping them focused, keeping them energized, keeping them focused on the next task. And it's amazing to see. Like despite the fact that he's a Bruins, like he's one of my like favorite players.
Yeah,
like,
because
currently.
of just how level-headed he is, and you know, great defensively, like all these points you made. And I think it's so evident now without him, like what he brings, what he actually brings, and what they'll be without him, right? Because this is kind of like their last dance, per se.
Yes.
But I think it's so evident now without him, like what he actually brings to the team. He is the team. No wonder he is the captain now that Char is gone. He is the like, you know what I mean? Like he embodies the Boston Bruins and what they've been about for so many years. So it should be interesting to see if he even going to get in the series. I haven't been following that storyline too much, but
I haven't seen if he's traveling to Florida or not. I don't think that info's been released, but if I had to guess, probably not.
Oh, okay.
Unless there's been any recent updates.
It could be the type of thing that, like, if the Bruins were to go down 2-3-1, per chance he would come back and play.
Okay, yeah, he didn't travel with the Bruins to Florida.
Did not.
Citing a personal issue.
Okay, so that's different than an injury. So,
that's much different.
Yes. So
whatever it is, all the best to Patrice.
And hopefully we see him again.
Hopefully,
in a Bruins uniform. Well, we probably will. I think they still take the series, but
yeah, he could make his debut. Could. Keyword here being could in Game 5.
Yes. So we'll keep tabs on that. I'm sure by the next podcast.
And then hopefully Pasta sort of re-energizes himself in the series. Yeah.
Which is pretty. Everyone was like, "Watch out for this guy," and he's sleeping. But we'll see how that goes. I want to move on to Hurricanes and Islanders because this one's been pretty interesting too. And the last 2 series I'm saving, I think, are 2 of the more interesting series. So I want to save them for last. Hurricanes and Islanders. Okay. Some interesting storylines here just to start, and then I'll let you take the mantle on this. Frederik Andersen isn't starting, and he also hasn't started a playoff series since 2020 with the Leafs in the bubble. whether he's been healthy or not. I think that's been pretty interesting. And they decided to go with Ranta in this series. The Hurricanes, so far through 2 games, are proving to us that they are that team. Like, everyone's counting them out. I feel like in everyone's predictions, they picked the Islanders as the upset. And I think we were a clean sweep on the Islanders. I'm pretty sure.
No, I had Carolina at the beginning of the season. I had them going to the Cup final.
That's
I still
right.
do.
Yeah,
I think I had Carolina. Did I have them going a distance? No, I had them going 6.
I think it was
Canes
6.
in
Yeah,
6.
yeah. So it's looking good right now because I could see the Islanders taking a few on the island. But I think. What have you thought about the first 2 games? Because the Hurricanes to me here have proved it to me. Okay, they mean business. They're here.
The Canes are one of the best teams at having like the next man up because not having guys like Pat Chiretti, Svechnikov, Teravainen broke his hand.
Teravainen's gone. Yeah,
he's gone, but they're still finding a way, and it's fantastic. It just sort of shows the depth that they have, and the coach that they have too, Brendan Moore. Because after hearing him say speech, you can ignore all the past historical context with the Oilers, but I could run through a wall for that guy.
No, absolutely. I think that's one of the secrets for their success over the last few years is him. Like, he just embodies like
he is him.
Yeah, no, Rod Brendamore is him. That's exactly like those speeches and just the way he can get guys to get up. You know what I mean? And we've said it all the time. They don't have an X factor, and they're missing a lot of guys. Like, realistically, Svechnikov, like we mentioned, Teravainen's gone now. Pacioretty, they had him. He's gone. But it's the next man up, and they just get the job done. And some of their guys who need to step up do that. And it's been great to watch, although I didn't pick them. But what did you think, too, of I think it was in Game 2, that high stick, or the non-call a lot of people were calling for in overtime? Did you see that?
I did, yes. And if you don't see an arm up in the first few seconds, first of all, yes, it was a high stick, but it's playoff hockey. Sure, call it by the book, but sometimes in the heat of the moment, the ref will just let him play on. But if you don't see an arm up in the first few seconds, just keep playing. Mm-hmm. Not once have I ever seen like a complaint from a player make a ref change his mind. Like, okay, maybe he was high stick, and then he throws his arm up. Like, it's just the mentality, just keep playing.
Yeah, if the arm doesn't go up right away, nothing you say or do is going to make that arm go up. So you got to keep playing. And I agree, it is a high stick. I think you're responsible. A lot of people saying it wasn't. You're responsible for your stick. That's end of story. And it was a high stick, and it should have been called. But I think there's also something to be said about playoff overtime hockey where nothing is ever called. So just expect the worst and keep playing. You know what I mean? Unless it's absolutely egregious, right? We've seen it, like a major penalty or something. But I think the Hurricanes, they ended up taking that game. That one was closer. I thought the Islanders actually showed up for that one. They scored a couple goals. But I still think they have the advantage in goaltending. But Hurricanes are putting pucks in the back of the nets, and it's been interesting.
We could also see like a repeat of last year because I think, what was it? The Canes, the only game they won on the road was what? Did they even win a game on the road in the playoffs last year?
No, I don't think so. I think that was the storyline, wasn't it? Where they only won at home, remember? Yeah.
They only won at home, and they managed to get to Game 7 of the second round against the Rangers.
Which was at home for the Rangers, right?
That was...
Oh, no, they lost at home. Yes.
They lost at home to the Rangers, but that's such like an anomaly of a stat.
Yes, that's so weird. And they're so bad on the road. like every game against the Rangers on the road, they got smoked. Like,
yeah.
So that, I don't know. That should be something to keep an eye on. Yeah. And I think not only that stat, but just any team heading into the island, watch out, because like those fans are on top of you, and it does make a difference. Everyone pretends like it doesn't. It makes a huge difference, and that team's going to be ready to rock and roll at home. So I think the series is far from over. I know it's 2-0, and the Canes are playing well, but it's has to be far from over. I don't know how you feel about that, but
I think it's the closest 2-0 series in the playoffs.
That's fair.
That kind of sounds like an oxymoron, but either game could have gone either way.
But I mean, game one was what, like a 2-1 score, 3-1 score?
Yeah,
with an empty net, maybe.
Yeah, but still.
But that's what I mean. Like, 1-goal game. Last game went into overtime. Like, both teams are right there. It could have went either way. It could be 2-0 Islanders going back to New York.
And then there's also what was Game 2 where there was the Sebastian Aho goal, like where
Yeah.
he flicked his stick up and it went into
The
like
wrong
I
Sebastian
mean
Aho.
I the right I mean you can't write that stuff. You really
No,
can't.
that was awesome to see. Actually, like, what were the odds of that? And the Aho on Aho hit in the first game, which was pretty cool. Muscled
That's
into the
Sebastian
puck.
Aho crime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see who comes out on top, which Sebastian in the end. But yeah,
I
another.
you know, if I had to put money on it, uh Aho wins.
I can't disagree. That's get your betting apps out, make the bet. Let's move on to Devils and
Don't
Rangers.
bet irresponsibly, kids.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, you can't lose with that one. So
No, you really can't.
that's
Knowing my luck, I still would.
We'll move on to Devils and Rangers, which has been very interesting, and I'll get into the reasons as to why. But just to quickly sum it up, and Matt, I'll let you take it. The Rangers are up 2-0, going back into New York. That is super dangerous in my eyes because they're a team with a lot of experience. But Matt, what have you thought about the series so far?
You can obviously see the difference between the two. The Devils are showing their inexperience while the Rangers are showing their experience. And say it's not even close. It's going to be a 4-game sweep.
Yeah, it's heading that way. I didn't think it was going to be. I thought it would be a little more entertaining. But dude, this series is over. Like,
I thought it was going to be close.
right.
That's the part I'm cheesed at because I thought, yeah, Battle of the Hudson, it's going 7.
Yeah.
The Rock, MSG, and then the Rangers come in. It's not like they steal the 2 games. No, they went in, put their print on it, and said, "Hey, New Jersey's in New York now," and,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
good. And they're going back to the Garden up 2.
Dude, everything about this series has gone horrible for the Devils. Like, everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. Let's start with the fans. First of all, you have more Rangers fans in your building than your own fans, okay? Which we thought might happen, but that's a factor, okay? The Devils have 2 goals in 2 games, and one of them is a penalty shot. Not good, okay? That is a not good stat. Patrick Kane is on the board. That's someone you didn't want to allow to get on the board. It might have happened, but he's on the board now. Not good, and it was a highlight reel goal, so he's feeling good about himself. Chris Kreider is allowed to do whatever he wants the last 2 games. Have you seen his 3 goals?
Yeah. I took him in a playoff pool, and that's exactly what I'm happy about.
Yeah, very smart because nobody's touching him, and he's just standing in front. He's allowed to do whatever he wants. Most dangerous scorer in New York Rangers playoff history, by the way, has most goals in their history.
I can see it. Most knees taken out too. Shout out to those Habs fans that are watching.
Dude, he broke that record a long time ago.
I don't care. I don't care.
But on top of all those things, the the Devils have completely gotten away from everything that made them successful this year. They're not playing to any of their strengths. They're trying to play the Rangers game and a game that I don't even know what they're doing. They're trying to play like this strong, heavy hitting. I don't know. I have no idea.
That's not their style.
It's not their style, and I don't know why. They've completely switched off what made them successful this year, which to me, they're going to fold quick. And the Rangers are obviously winning the goaltending battle, which we thought was going to happen. But like I said, New Jersey has 2 goals in 2 games. One of them's a penalty shot. So, Matt, what?
Yeah, because the total goal differential is like, what, 10-2? New York over the last 2 games.
Yeah.
And you're giving Igor Shesterkin a 2-game head start, essentially. Like, it's wraps. It's over. Good night, New Jersey.
And you're heading back to MSG
to the Garden.
Yeah.
And that's going to be like 100% Rangers fans too. Because like you said, the amount of Rangers fans at the Rock, I mean, it's probably cheaper to go to the first 2 games in New Jersey
100%.
than it is just to go to 1 game at the Garden.
Oh, 100%. And it was more Rangers fans than Devils fans those last 2 games. So even if it goes 5, even if you can push this 5 now, you're in trouble. The Devils are in deep.
That's been a
trouble.
recurring theme like throughout the Northeast for Rangers fans. Like no matter where, like Boston, even Philly. Did you see that Philly crowd?
Yeah.
It was like the last Rangers Flyers game like of the regular season, and it was like 95% Rangers fans.
Wasn't that the thing where the Flyers had to come out and say something because they were like, we feel really embarrassed about this?
Pretty much. Yeah. It's like why you don't have to apologize. Do something about it.
Yeah.
Like an apology just makes you sound worse.
Yeah.
Like almost like you're asking for pity.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that is exactly what it was. But but Yeah.
Anyways, the Flyers still make headlines on this show, and I love it.
Yeah, I know.
That's how much of a joke they
Dude,
are.
the Flyers, yo,
Suck.
I am sorry. We have a friend who's a Flyers fan. Dude, they suck. They don't matter. Fix your franchise.
This is the first year. I don't think he listens to the pod, but like every other year, he's been hyper like positive, almost like they have him on the payroll. He's been like, man,
yeah.
Flyers hockey, heart of the city, let's go. And this year's like, oh, they suck this year.
This year, I don't even think you watched games. That's when you know. That was that year before we got Matt. No, it was the Marner draft for the Leafs. I didn't even watch games. I was like, this is not like me at all. Like, when you get to that point, dude, I freaking burn it down. Like, brutal.
But the Flyers aren't even smart enough to burn it down.
No.
Anyways.
Yeah, screw the Flyers.
Anyways.
Going back to New Jersey, they're in some real trouble. They're also very undisciplined. They're giving the Rangers power play, which is lethal, a lot of opportunities. And if that continues at MSG, like, kiss your season good night, dude. You might as well do that already, because even if the Rangers lose one game, like, this series is done, man. You shouldn't have lost one game at home.
So a hypothetical. Say the Rangers sweep the Devils.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to Lindy Ruff's job?
He keeps it. I think he's a good coach.
He keeps it?
Yeah,
okay.
I think...
Yeah, it wouldn't be smart enough. Yeah, thinking about it, it wouldn't really be smart enough to fire him after, like, one good year. Because we saw what happened with Florida last year. Because Andrew Brunette carried them the rest of the way. And management got spooked. Management got spooked that, Tampa Bay kind of ran them out of the building and they got rid of Brunette when they didn't give him a full 82-game season to gel with them.
Yeah, and I think the way I see it, like, Jack Hughes only became Jack Hughes this year. And a lot of their guys only kind of came into their own this year. And you only just added Luke Hughes on the back end for the playoffs. They're not playing their style of play. I know that kind of falls on the coach, but they're showing their inexperience in a way. So I feel like if they were to just give him another chance and kind of roll with this, let the team grow, they could have something there. But they're so young. They're showing their inexperience here. Like, these guys have never been to the playoffs. The only guy that they have on the roster who's been to the playoffs is what? Dougie Hamilton and Palat, and that's it. Like, they're showing their inexperience here.
Vanacek? I think Vanacek with the Capitals
I don't think he played, though, because he was the backup to Samsonov.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, he was sitting on the bench, so he was there.
Kind of counts.
He was in the game.
He got like a playoff participant T-shirt.
yeah. He got the hat. The hats.
You got the hat. That's what matters.
Yeah. So
it falls apart after one wash.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I picked the Rangers to win. I like the Rangers in the series. Their inexperience is showing on the Devils' side, so I think it's over.
I think I had the Rangers. I think I said it was going to be a quick series. Didn't I say Rangers in 5?
5 games, yeah. I think.
Yeah, 5. Okay, yeah. I'm feeling a lot better about that prediction.
I was kind of surprised because I have like friends that are Devils fans, and they were kind of like, "Oh, the Devils, this, and that," and I was like, "Okay, maybe 6 games then," because I don't follow them, so maybe you guys are right. No, shit's over. Could be a sweep.
It's
yeah. It's I don't know. That's tough. Okay, we'll move on to Leafs and Lightning. The best series.
Yeah,
of the playoffs,
I get to engage in Leafs talk.
Yes,
let's go.
I know. Whenever Nick's like, okay, let's talk about the Leafs normally. You're like, phone.
for those that watch the video podcast, whenever it gets into Leafs talk, I'm just a pretty face. But this week, with no Nick, I get to engage. And here's the thing: I've watched the Leafs game, so I know what I'm talking about instead of talking out my ass. Let's go.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Have you watched the games?
I have, yes.
Awesome. Okay, so the Leafs, we'll start here, absolutely shit the bed in Game 1. That was one of the worst performances I've ever seen them in the Matthews and Marner era. That was horrible. Matt, what was your take on the game? The whole theatrics, everything that was on Twitter after? It was a whole thing.
After the Oilers lost in Game 1, I kind of stayed off Twitter, just for mental reasons. But in Game 1... as soon as it wasn't the 1-0 goal, it was the Cirelli goal. Like 7.5 minutes into the first period, I was like, oh no, not this again. And it wasn't even the Kucherov goal with like 4 seconds left. It was the second goal. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, no, this can't possibly happen again. And then I saw Hedman get injured, so they're down to 5 defensemen. Yep. The Chernak, we'll get into that. Chernak, so they're down to 4 defensemen. Like there is no way the Leafs can lose this series. Like they're missing their probably, I don't know, I wouldn't say their top two defensemen, but their best defenseman. It's like they've got all the momentum on their side. Game one, okay, feel out game. Remind everybody who they are. Game two, remind everybody who they were during the regular season, as opposed to last year's playoffs. It was just a complete momentum swing.
Yeah.
The Leafs, they realize what they have in their hands right now does not come around every year, and they're capitalizing on it, or trying to at least.
Trying to.
And that's the best hockey I've seen Morgan Riley play ever. Ever.
Yeah,
Let's
literally last night was the best Morgan Riley game of all time.
Like my man turned into Morgan Orr there for a minute.
4 assists, most in Leafs playoff history in a game. 4 assists, which is insane. That they're breaking these records. The Leafs as a franchise are horrible. But yeah, to go back to game one, just to give my thoughts. They started the game horrible. Like you could see it in the first 30 seconds. They were not ready for prime time. And that could be the game, because if the Lightning went up 2-3 goals, which they did, this game is done. So they were very undisciplined. They weren't playing to their strengths at all. They looked nervous. The crowd was nervous, you could tell, even though it was game one. But there's that nervous energy where it's like, holy shit, if we don't do it this year, what is going to happen, right? Like, forget last year. There was this energy of like, we can do this and whatever. But like this year, it's like, you have to do it or else everyone leaves and all this shit. So anyway, we moved to the second period. They started playing better, and I honestly thought like if the refs didn't interfere and things got a little sketchy, they were gonna win that game too. Like they were coming on hard.
It was soon as Nylander made a 3-2.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, they're starting to realize we're the Leafs.
Yes,
and then that's when it went off the rails completely.
Exactly. As soon as Nylander scored, I was like, just the way play was going. It wasn't even the penalties, right? Because that goal was on the power play, but the Leafs took a couple penalties already. But just the way they were playing leading up to that goal, I was like, all right, they're going to bang in one more and they're going to win this game, right? They're just going to take over the game just the way they were playing. Then you get like a phantom a cross check, which Shen didn't even have two hands on his stick, so I'm not sure how that's a cross check. If you want to call it interference or roughing, whatever, it's not a cross check. Then I think they called Ross Colton on one back checking on Riley. He didn't even do anything. I don't know how that's a penalty. Then there was another one on I'm forgetting now. Oh, that's Slash. Perry slashes somebody. Camp slashes him back, I think. They call that only Camp. I'm like, dude, what are we doing here? Then the game starts to get out of hand. Tampa starts scoring. Then the bunting thing. So we can get into the bunting thing now. I think Michael Bunting was preparing for Cernak to come down hard on him in the corner, because that's where the puck was, and he was kind of bracing himself, but it was a stupid play. He puts his elbow up, gets him in the head. Cernak's out now, which should be pretty interesting for the rest of the series, and so is Bunting. But leading up to this game, Bunting has looked like a liability for the Leafs, so him getting suspended isn't even the worst thing for the Leafs. But again, stupid play, put them down even worse than they were in that game. But yeah, Matt, what did you think of the whole Bunting ordeal and those series of penalties, like right after the Nylander goal to kind of the Bunting thing?
Yeah, like the Bunting thing, like that was just like emotions taking over completely. That wasn't where he was trying to go, oh, I'm going to hit the guy. No, that was him putting all he had, all his rage, all his pent up emotions into Eric Cernak. And yeah, there's consequences for your actions. And Michael Bunting learned that. And yeah, like the reffing, there's been certain like notable moments over the course of the playoffs, like these last few years, like in the Leafs Bruins series, where if the refs don't police the players will do it themselves.
Right.
And then the refs realize that, and then that's when they start to take names and call reputation calls on them. Like Bunting, okay, that wasn't a reputation call. That was quite obvious.
Yeah.
But they start to take names and take notes.
But I think once the game gets to that point, you're in trouble, because the game
Absolutely.
will get out of hand immediately. You cannot let it get to that point, right? And then I think, obviously, the Lightning are scoring some cheap goals. The Leafs don't look like themselves after that again. And the game was pretty much a lost cause. And the only thing I want to say, too, about Game 1 to end it is, as a league, when you wake up the next morning after a Leafs playoff game and your number one trending thing is Wes McCauley, who is a referee, you have you have an issue. You have a problem you need to solve. And given the history with him and Sheldon Keefe, I don't know how the league allows, with that information in public domain, I don't know how the league allows him to ref games.
It's almost like a conflict of interest.
It is 100%.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. But it continues to happen. They just sweep it under the rug. But it's interesting because you can just Google it now, and it's there for you to read. So I thought that was interesting, too. And also the other interesting thing, they're 0-8 in every game that he's refed. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say?
The numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for Samoa Joe at Sacrifice.
That's next Sunday on pay-per-view. So yeah, we'll move on to game 2. The Leafs were like, hey, yeah, we back. We are us, you know. Completely took over the game. I didn't watch the game in full. I missed the game, but I caught some of the highlights in most of the first and second period. It was a good game. They took over. They completely outplayed the Lightning. I thought you can also make a case that the Lightning weren't on their game either. But yeah, big guy stepping up. Tavares with a playoff hat trick hasn't happened in 21 years or something like that for the Leafs, which isn't saying much because the last time they won a series was 19 years ago. But yeah, I mean, great performances. Nylander with 2 goals, I think. Marner had 2 goals. Huge performance.
The core 4. I'll just dig up Nick's tweet here again.
Yeah.
He's not on the episode, but with us spiritually. I'll use his source material. Tavares with a hat trick, like you said. Matthews 2 assists. Marner 2 goals, 1 assist, and Nylander with 1 goal and 1 assist. For Matthews to have 2 assists in a game where you score 7 goals, I mean, it's the McDavid thing against the Kings all over again. Like, if you keep this guy quiet and you allow the others to sort of step up, it'll spell trouble for you.
It'll hurt you. And Matthews is coming. He doesn't stay quiet for long. We saw it last year. His time will come.
It's not a matter of if, it's when.
When, yeah, which is the most dangerous part. But yeah, I don't know. Great freaking effort, man, from them. And I know the Lightning probably weren't on their game, but heading back to Tampa now, I don't know. The first game, I was kind of like, holy shit, they're in their own heads. How is game 2 going to go? Because if you lose game 2, you're looking, this is tough, right? But the way they played that game last night, just the way they know how, I still have the Leafs winning this series in 6 games. If the Leafs play like that and they're locked in like that, I don't see them losing many games this series. So
yeah, I think they're going to capitalize on smelling blood in the water that they failed to do against teams like Montreal, where like Montreal was significantly weaker than this year's Tampa Bay team.
Absolutely.
But they will, like, it's the highlight reel in their head. They're replaying, like, they can't sleep, and they're replaying moments where they realize, hey, we could have capitalized here, and they didn't. And this is the year where they slay the dragon. Yeah. And it's going to be a wonderful day for an exorcism, like Jim Houston once said.
I think you're right. I think this is the year. They're a different team, and honestly, watching, listening to what people were saying, and then watching some of it back from last night, a lot of the guys, Tavares had a hat trick, Marner the 2 goals, Matthews 2 assists, all these guys the top 4, whatever. Riley 4 assists. Ryan O'Reilly was the best player on the ice, like the whole game, which is crazy. He was the best player on the ice defensively. He was chipping in for chances. He's playing with a rookie in Matthew Nice, who also looks fantastic for his age. He's winning puck battles. Tampa's defense, if Hedman stays out, because we don't know what's going on with Cernak, right? It's a head thing, could be out the whole series. If Hedman stays out, Tampa is in tough because that defense is going to get exposed. And we've said it time and time again with different series like the Canadians and stuff. This team is different. They have had years to lick their wounds now. Like you said, thinking about these opportunities that they let pass them by. They have guys like O'Reilly, Giordano, who fought last night. Luke Shen, who's been there, won a cup, who wants to win in Toronto because he was drafted by Toronto. It just smells, especially after last night, smells different to me. I feel like we're going to see a different outcome here.
Yeah, also, shout out to Brian Elliott, who's collecting one of the easiest bags ever. Because there was an instance where John Cooper, or it was reported, it wasn't confirmed, that John Cooper went up to Andrei Vasilevsky. It was, what, 6-1?
Yeah.
6-1 or 2, I forget, after the second period. And he goes up to Vasilevsky and says, do you want to be pulled? And Vasilevsky, I forgot what the streak was at. but there's been like a
Oh,
streak
yeah.
where he hasn't been pulled in a playoff game and it continued. And it's like, okay, really, if you're Andre Vasilevsky, sure, it's a mental thing, but what do you have to gain from staying in a game where you're up or so you're down by 5 heading into the third? Like you know the result. Battling back
Yes.
from it isn't going to make it easier. Recollect, catch up on your mistakes. I know, all everybody in the comments is, oh, you've never played professional hockey as a goalie before. What do you know? Nothing. But that's the point. But
Yes.
I mean, like, what's the gain? Like, say that he gets injured in the third, and it was all for nothing. He didn't get injured in the third. I'm not wishing for an injury. Don't take it as such. But it's like, what's there to gain? Really, what's there to
No, but
gain?
Matt, the streak. We got to keep the
Oh, the
streak
streak.
alive.
Okay, okay. Well, where's Brock Lesnar
Brock
when you need him?
Lesnar,
Like
yeah.
at some point, you just have to give in and start from scratch. Because say he gives up like 2 or 3 in that third period, didn't, but that doesn't make it any easier for you heading into Game 3, knowing that that Leaf team put that much on you.
Speaking of that, too, going back to last year's series, Game 1, Vasilevsky against the Leafs looks like ass. like, like everyone, the pregame panel, before every game, before every series, all season long, oh, Vasilevsky, best goalie. His stats back it up. He's won 2 Stanley Cups. He's been to the Stanley Cup Finals 3 years in a row. Always, all these stats. Sub 900 goalie against the Leafs.
Like all he had to do last year against the Leafs is be better than Jack Campbell, and that doesn't take much.
No, and I as I remember it, I don't think he was, but they still lost the series, and that's all that matters, right? But I don't think he was. And again, this year, Samsonov he didn't look great in Game 1, but nobody did. And then you come into Game 2, and the script is flipped. So I thought that was pretty interesting. What did you think of the penalty box stuff? My background.
Oh, with the guy in the yellow hoodie?
Yes.
I don't think he would have said that if there wasn't a pane of glass in the way.
Oh, definitely not.
Like,
Definitely not.
like you don't know how much like liquid courage does to a person. Like a couple of those $40 Scotiabank Arena beers, and that makes you feel different.
No, let me tell you something though. You spend $80 on beer, it doesn't matter if there's a pane
You,
of glass.
you get to
in
say whatever
between
you want. No,
Yeah. You have the right in society to say whatever the hell you want. You spend $80 on beer, okay, in one night.
Like if that's Toronto's version of the Green Men, then you guys are in trouble.
Yeah, I don't think it is, but you know what? Like, obviously, if there's no pane of glass there, Jeannot is gonna beat the brakes off that guy. Like, we know that, okay? All right, people, all right. But everyone's complaining. Things are getting out of hand by the Leafs penalty box. On Twitter, that's all I see. A lot of people crying. These are fans. They paid the money to sit there. They can do whatever they want, unless they're throwing shit on the players, which they weren't. They weren't. They're just doing
Which
their
is
thing.
yeah, that's another point I'd like to bring up later.
Yes. But they weren't. They were just talking back and forth. The players were getting into it. Perry was getting obviously rattled. I think that's more on the Tampa players than the fans. The fans paid the money to sit there. The Tampa players didn't have to be in the box. That's all I'm saying. So, yes, Matt?
Yeah. When it comes to throwing stuff at players or on the ice, let's just have a quick PSA. Don't, because that's been the talk of Edmonton and Oiler fans ever since Game 1. Sure, okay, the reffing a little more than questionable. Sorry to sort of segue in from the Leafs here. We can go back, but after the end of Game 1, instead of seeing highlights, like Draisaitl 2 goals, the team blew a 3-1 lead. No, all you see is just like beer cans and pom poms on the ice, and that just makes them look awful. I don't defend it at all whatsoever. It's classless to say the least. It shouldn't. Sorry, go.
I was really glad in Game 1 when things were getting out of hand that I didn't see anything on the ice, at least on TV. It could have happened, but we didn't see anything on TV because I'm like, that would make this look so much worse, and I just hate it. It makes, I don't know, like, it makes the moment, like, whatever they're throwing it on the ice for, if it's a loss or a bad call or whatever, it just makes that moment that much worse. Like, it just makes you look so classless. Like, I hate it. So, yeah, what were you saying?
Yeah, it's like, it wasn't even like there were 2 instances. There was in overtime, there was the Derek Ryan disallowed goal, like goal off the crossbar, and all you saw. Okay, you saw the handout, like the orange pom poms thrown on the ice. Okay, well, whatever. few bad apples in the crowd. But it was after the Iafallo overtime goal, and you saw like full beer cans. It was like, what are you guys doing? You like, what's the point you're trying to make here?
And if you
Like
throw a
all you're making,
full, yeah,
yeah, it's like not just the pom poms. It was like the beer cans. It's like you spent how much just to voice your displeasure at officiating, which they're not gonna say, oh, that'll make us call more penalties in favor of the Kings next game, but it just makes you look like a piss baby.
yeah.
I'm gonna give it to you straight here, but it's so stupid.
And if you hit somebody with a full beer can from like
Yeah,
the 17th row or some shit, like that's gonna hurt. Like that'll hurt. Like that's dangerous, man.
see, I don't like the Kings, but it doesn't make me want to throw a full beer can at them.
No, and at the end of the day, like a lot of people don't realize like it's
It's
sports, man. Life
sports.
goes on.
It's sports.
Yeah, like be there, make noise, do the thing by the penalty box, do the whole crazy shit, whatever. Challenge guys to fight if you want.
Don't be an idiot.
But don't be a complete idiot. Don't try to jump the glass. Don't try to throw shit on them. Don't try to throw shit on the ice, But do your thing, You paid your money. You're a fanatic. You're a fan. That's what we're there to do, right? But like you said, once it gets to the point of like literally throwing shit and whatever, there's a line.
And that's all you see. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
really? Because of course, people like, oh, you're an Oilers fan, you're classless. It's depends on what the situation. No, I'm kidding, but
No.
just don't throw stuff on the ice, people. That is my certified TED talk for today for this episode.
Awesome.
Will I get one next episode? Probably not.
Who
but
knows?
But don't throw stuff on the ice.
Yeah. So I think that's it for today's episode.
Which sorry, Darius. Our rap question. Our rap question for this week.
Yes.
It's not so much what's your favorite. My rap question for this week is what do you think of the officiating so far in this year's playoffs?
Ooh, okay. It's bad. It's really bad, and I think it's bad in that it's inconsistent. You watch any two games, and they will be called completely different. So you have no idea what's a penalty and what's not, and I think that is really shitty. It makes the sport hard to watch, hard to understand too. If you don't, if somebody who's never really watched that often, and it's a playoff time, wow, let's catch a game. They have no idea what's going on. I think that's harsh, but yeah, I think to sum it up, like it's been horrible. I have no idea what is playoff hockey and what isn't anymore. Right? They make this whole like thing about playoff hockey, and people trade for certain guys for that, and then you get to the playoffs and it's like they're calling every little thing, or then they don't call anything at all. Like it's very inconsistent. But anyway, Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, and all of the overtime games I've seen so far, because there was game one, Oilers Kings, there's game one, Wild Stars, and there's another one. Okay, well, it was a non-call. Yeah, but I've never seen so many penalties called in overtime before.
Right, because usually the rule of thumb is no penalties.
The rule of thumb is like unless like there's a guy with no pulse on the ice, like or it's puck over glass, then it's nothing. It's nothing. And so sort of I don't like how the rule book changes once it turns into mid-April. So to sort of like you said, there's no consistency. Mm-hmm. It's like from game one of all the series, just set a standard and don't change from that standard, because there was a graph, I forget who it was, but there's a graph sort of showing the volume of penalties called by game and by round two. So like round one, game one, round two, game one. And you could sort of see it like there's like a high volume of calls in game one, and then it starts to sort of lower as the series gets later on. Yeah. It's like, just because it's a do or die situation does not mean you don't have to call penalties by the book.
Right.
Then why have the rule book?
Right. Then why is it even there? Just make it up as you go, right?
Yeah, it's like, what? No, hockey games should not be determined off judgment calls. They should be determined like, hey, that's textbook slashing or high sticking or cross checking or interference, even though that's sort of a blue line or goalie interference, which is even worse. Yeah. But just call it by the rule book. How hard is that to do? Sure, as a ref, the game moves quicker, but there's no reason why there shouldn't be like an eye in the sky.
Yeah, I
like
think they can do so many things.
They can do that so much easier. if there's an eye in the sky, like the NFL does it. I'm fairly certain the NFL
Yeah,
does
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Or VAR. Well, that's not.
Well, that has problems
Ugh.
in itself, yeah. But
But yeah,
I think
sorry,
to go back
continue.
to your point, like slashing, for example, I think when it comes to playoffs, like if it's in the hands or it breaks a stick, it's a slash. Otherwise, it's not. Like I always thought that was kind of the rule, the rule at hand in playoff hockey, right? And so far this year, it's all over the book. I have no idea what is a slash and what's not. So when you think about being a player, how is that not confusing on the ice when you're like, I have no idea what I can do and what I can't, right? And these guys might get away with more, and why is that?
Yeah, because you could be defending a breakaway, back checking, and you could get called. You could like stick lift the guy, and then you get called for slashing because the stick lift hit the guy's hand, even though
Right.
you did not do like a two-hand slashing motion.
Exactly.
It's such a gray area, and then it's frustrating not only for like the players but for the fans too, because you could see like two identical calls made where one wasn't called but the other one was.
Hmm.
Not to be biased here a little bit, but like in the LA Kings Edmonton series, like there's been numerous instances where say like which penalty was it? It was like an Evander Kane penalty, and then a King did the exact same thing and no arm came up.
Yeah.
It's like
Then what are
sure
we
I
doing here?
sure like I won't get mad at calls like made against my team. Like okay, you can't do that, but when the other team, it's like not even like if they're playing Edmonton, but if like it's two opposite teams and you see it's obviously sort of one-sided,
Hmm.
then what's the sense of watching? Like it's almost like you're seeing like the 2002 like Sacramento LA series. Like
Exactly.
there's no entertainment value in watching refs clearly indicate well, I don't not whose side they're on, but
But
show a little bit of favoritism.
dictating the game. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dictating the game exactly.
Yes.
Like if a team is down 2-0 in the series and all the calls are made for the team that are up 2-0 in the series, then what's the sense in trying to game manage? And that term in itself is questionable. Like
It's
game
stupid.
management,
Yeah.
no. Just
Call the
just
game.
just call the game by
Yeah.
the book.
The players will determine what happens, not you.
Yeah,
So,
thanks for Tim Peel ruining all this for us.
yeah, for real. He really
That
pulled
was
back the
that
curtain
was
on that.
oh, that was stupid.
Awful.
If there's ever
Oh yeah,
one
but he can't ref
situation,
anymore. But
he can,
it's not like the rest of the guys don't do the same thing. Come on.
yeah,
Crazy.
so he's 20 games away from retirement. He's not a police dog. He's an NHL ref. He's paid paid big money to officiate hockey
Do that.
games.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then to say, "Oh, I was going to call a penalty on him because I made an awful call in the first." It's like, come on.
What are you
People
doing?
bet on this sport. That's the hilarious
That's
part.
the craziest part with all this
That's
shit.
yeah.
You're putting
So, yeah,
money, putting money
yeah.
into this shit, and they're just like
Yeah.
making it up as they go.
So sort of the refs apparently. Quick
Yeah.
shout out to Tim Donaghy. But yeah, that's my another mini rant on officiating in the
Yeah.
playoffs.
Yeah, it's
Because from year to year, they like to change it up.
it's
Is it because they're bored? Probably.
yes. They're just I'm telling you, they just make it up as they go. But honestly,
They make it up as they go along. Well, that's any reffing in professional sports.
Yeah,
Like, did you see that call made on James Harden last night?
I
And
didn't
the next
no.
oh, okay, well he sort of like low tapped a guy and he got called for flagrant foul.
Oh,
That's like come on. Come on.
come on. Let him play.
Or even like the Draymond situation, but you can't stomp on a guy and get away with it.
Draymond's a little different, yeah, Draymond, and he has a history. But anyway,
He does have his but yeah, no, that was the rap question.
yes, and it was a
With
good one.
my
And
accompanied by my mini rant there.
yeah, I think well warranted too. Well needed rant on the reffing because it has been pretty horrible. But that is it for this week's episode. Playoff hockey is here. It is in full swing. These series they're looking good. Look like they're gonna go the distance. But as always, we'll be back next week to either wrap up some series or continue to talk about some of the series that will still be going on. I think a lot of these are going the distance. Honestly, just the way things have been looking the first two games. But yeah, thanks to Nick for not showing up today. Thanks to me for producing and editing. Thanks to Matt.
Thanks to me, the Zoom Premium.
For the Zoom Premium and helping run the show today. And once again, another shout out for Nick for not showing up today. No,
yeah,
we're just joking.
our host with the least. That's who he is.
No.
He's gonna grill me for that. No,
Yeah.
Much love to my boy Nick.
Yeah.
One of
Nick
the
is
best
the
hosts you can ask for.
absolute glue of the show. Couldn't do it without him. So
one of the best guys that you could host a hockey podcast with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just a beaut, a true beaut, as the kids like to say.
As the youngins like to say. But yeah, he'll be back next week, and we'll talk some playoff hockey. He's busy doing school. Not like that's important or anything, you know.
To do his outro, if you're listening to this in your car, make sure to use your turn signals.
That's right.
If you're listening to this on the bus, give that lady your seat. And as for always, thanks for joining us on the Gritcast. For Darius and I, enjoy some playoff hockey, and have a good day.
For more content, visit our YouTube channel and check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to follow the guys on social media at Matt_Mondays, at Nick LaFlame, and at Darius Dominguez.